Next speaker now, I'll target things they're from P6 Academy, and they'll be speaking about the concept of midi-bidi. Keep forgetting this. So, P6 Academy. So P6 is short for Badshahi JV, which translate to the sixth king, a homage to the sixth Guru, Sri Har Gobind Sahib Ji. Initially, they started as a Gatka club, which is a Sikh martial arts, but they've expanded into an academy being run in Wolverhampton. Their mission is to educate, empower and invigorate future generations by following the teachings of Guru Har Gobind Sahib Ji. Their vision is to have students across the world being able to access and learn through their vast knowledge of the Guru. So I'll just like to invite Bajis up from P6 Academy. Their vision is to have students across the world being able to access and learn through their vast knowledge of the Guru. So I'll just like to invite Bajis up from P6 Academy. Thank you. You want the walking mics or? Yeah. Their presentation. Thank you very much. You're going to both be talking?
Yeah.
Just one of you have the mic and just stand close.
So, just this mic?
That's for the audio there.
Lovely.
But these are the mics.
Stop. So who talks? Just grab that.
Saad Sangat ji, Waheguru ji ka Khalsa, Waheguru ji ki Fateh. As we're here, obviously we're talking about midi-bidi and the role of Shastra in modern society. As Bari explained very well, at P6 Academy we do Shastra Vidya, Rag Vidya, Gurbani Vidya. On top of that, we do some stuff. Other than that, we do mental health, one-to-one sessions. We're expanded online, which is obviously with our thought of going international, trying to get students across the world, trying to basically spread Sikhi. As you can see, obviously, Western Sugant here, and we've crossed borders into UK, obviously, most of us would know. And the genocides that have been going on, we just want to raise awareness of that. I'm going to pass over to Isha Singh now.
Wonderful. I'm holding the microphone close enough, hopefully.
Yeah.
So, just regarding a little bit of background about P6. Singh's been with P6 for about, 6-7 years. He started when he was quite young. I've only been there for about a year, if that. And even still, they've done a lot to change my life. Especially, we see a lot of people at our age, 19 years old, 20 this year, looking at the world of universities, looking at the world of Sikh society, looking at the world of organisations. They're very eager to recruit young people, and it's very easy to end up stuck in, what shall I do? Do I go with these guys? Do I go over here? Or shall I just go back and focus on what Guru Sahib says? I think that's the most important thing that we're going to focus on. So, the first thing we're going to try and do is cover a bit of just background, which Bible Singh has covered absolutely incredibly. I could never do anything as well as that. I mean, I've been watching them, as I'm sure all of you have. I've been watching them since I was a child. I've watched hundreds of hours of their conversations, so there's nothing I can do to even put a feather to what they said. But we have the idea of Shastra from the time of Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj. Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj historically carried a Shastra which was a Sikh Salotan, which we carry now, which a lot of Sikhs will carry. And even still, they said that they have a Tekka, which is at, which Gurdwara is at, I think it's at Hazur Sahib. I might be wrong, it might be at Patna Sahib, I'm not sure, but they have their Shastra there as well. Okay. So, from there, the Vidya got passed to Baba Buddhaji, and from Baba Buddhaji, the Vidya passed back into Guru Sahib lineage with Guru Har Gobind Sahib Maharaj. From there, it's passed on and carried on going, and that Vidya has been used to protect Sikhi, and also to protect others. We have many instances in our history where Guru Sahib was there to defend other people, and that will go into that in due course.
Yeah, obviously, Guru Nanak Dev Ji, most of us would see, if there's a stereotypical image of Guru Nanak Dev Ji, it would probably be them farming, going around doing their tours, going across different countries. However, they weren't just that. They were the originators of what we call Shastra Vidya. They were talented in over 14, you could say, subjects, topics: horsemanship, Shastra Vidya, Rag Vidya. They were instrumental. They were going across places, not just spreading messages of, obviously, their Japji Sahib, which is probably the most famous scripture that Sikhs would probably use that you've probably taught from a younger age, all the way up to ages that you can see, 80s, 90s. Many people will go to the scriptures and be like, oh, Japji Sahib, I've heard that. That's Guru Nanak Dev Ji's Bani. But across from that, horsemanship, which is a big thing, using that in Jang, especially when they paved the way. Guru Arjan Dev Ji Shahidi, as Bari explained before us, they paved the way for the first Sikh army. Horsemanship was one of the key tactics that they used to defend against oppressors, which may be the Mughals, maybe anyone who's oppressing against those who are in need. So, a need for Shastra. So, why do we need Shastra? I just want to have your ideas. Why do we need Shastra, especially in today's days? We're not fighting a war like Guruji's were back in the day. Why do we need them? Just any ideas from anyone, just shout them out. Anybody?
A symbol of what it means to us.
Yeah, a symbol, yes, obviously a symbol, but a symbol of what exactly?
Self-defense, protecting others.
Self-defense and protecting others. Now, this is the exact reason that Guruji started an army. And obviously, oppressing at that time is different to now. There were different tactics, different people back then, and different now. Obviously, the most recent things, 1984, I feel like a lot of the Bajorg here would have been through this. We know, but they would have felt this. What is 1984? What happened? Blue Star Operation. Obviously, I won't go into depth about that. Babaji, the Bajorg here would probably know much more than I do, way more. But Guruji explained two things to us: Miri, a temporal and a political authority, and Piri, a spiritual authority. Now, what does it mean to be Miri and Piri? Well, Miri is having a sense of being at a place, at a time, there to protect no matter what. So, when I said political matters, it means it was the first time that Sikhs were standing up in the political matters, just not in India, but influencing that in the Western society. As you see, you have political parties here. And that was generally introduced by the Eastern societies. Guru Har Gobind Sahib Ji created parties that could rule over certain areas and say, okay, you've been elected by the people, do your role. And then the people will choose, okay, this person's good for us, he's doing our stuff. And this is the parties that's been elected now. Obviously, you've got the general elections coming up. They've come up, and obviously, a lot of the things that, you know, a lot of Sikhs have been elected this time, I think the most ever, if I'm correct. And that was from the idea of Miri, being political, having authority over, for example, the way people live their lives. Okay, you need to give it, the Swanjat Badi said, you need to give 10% of your earnings towards society, for example. So say there's a charity that may be doing work to help people, as we were saying, genocides. You give 10% towards that, but that's the Miri. Biri, spiritual, is mean connecting with Waheguru, connecting with what you think is right for you. So that may not be God in an instance for a lot of people here, but it may be connected to what you think is right, what you think happened. If people know, then a lot of people believe in the Big Bang Theory. A lot of people may believe in Adam and Eve, but it's being spiritual. It means connecting with that. For us as Sikhs, it means doing Bani, reading Japji Sahib, Satnam Vaheguru Simran, every day without stop. And obviously, we need to balance this. As it says there, Sikhs across the world use this to balance their spiritual devotion with daily life challenges. Now, these challenges obviously are different to back then. However, challenges that we may face in these days are trying to be on the edge. Are we trying to say, okay, do you want to be a Sikh? What's happening? Where am I with Sikhi at the moment? And we could use this Miri and Piri to decide, okay, this is where I am with Miri, this is where I am with Piri.
So, along with that, we have two things. We have the fact that, yes, we have Shastra, and we can hold them. But having a Shastra and not doing anything with it is pointless. It's all good me going on the train, have my Shastra book, and like that on it. You know, I've got my Shastra, everyone should listen to me, I should scare all the people on the train. No, that's not what it's for. If I've got this, it means I have to symbolize something. If I see someone on the train who needs help, I need to help them. If I see someone who needs something, I need to go out of my way to go and assist them. How many times, I mean, probably a lot of us have grabbed the train to be here. At Birmingham New Street, how many times does someone come up to you because they see that you're so bad, and they come to you and ask for help? Just 3 times last week, I had someone go, oh, and you have to, you can't say no anymore. And a lot of people at Suji don't have these experiences. People don't talk to them. A lot of my friends at work, they're like, why does everyone come up to you? Why does everyone ask you for money? Like, are you rich or something? Oh, I haven't got anything more than anyone else. And they just know from this group, from this Shastra, that they're not scared of it. They understand that it's something that just symbolises they're here to help. And that was just symbolised incredibly by this masjid and what Guru Sahib did here. So in one hand they had their Shastra, and in the other hand they had their Mala. And that Shastra was not only sharp in the physical way, it was also sharp mentally, it was also sharp politically, it was also sharp in making decisions to help the community and to assist anyone that they could. So Guru Sahib built that masjid for those people, and that masjid still stands today. And it's constantly renovated and looked after by the Sikh and his brother, not his brother actually, but his brother who's a Muslim. And it's just incredible. We have even more stories where Guru Tegh Bahadur Sahib, who got their name due to a Shastra, due to being the army of Guru Har Gobind Sahib. They took that Shastra, and from that they got their name as being Bahadur, which means incredible, which means talented, which means amazing. With that day, and from that they still gave their seeds to that very day back to save the human. So we have history of Guru Sahib being sharp and being strong in such incredible ways. Jump into the next one. And then we have, even further, we have Guru Har Rai Sahib Maharaj. And they envisioned this incredibly. They had an army, I think, I might be wrong, 125,000 horsemen, or something along those lines. It might be 25,000. And they kept that with them, also with them, 24/7, anywhere they went. I think I'm big with my little Shastra. They had 25,000 men behind them on horses, ready at any point to let's go, let's fight. And these were junkie things. They weren't just like, oh, let's see, that's good. No, let's just say sit down, we'll have our Shastra, we'll have our horses. No, they were ready. At a moment's notice, they could go out and fight. But they did not even fight one battle. Because they understood how to protect and how to serve. And that's such an important thing that Sikh people envision and serve. The same way within our police forces and in our different sources. The motto is protect and serve. And it's the exact same beliefs that we have, which has been highlighted here. And then forward. Thank you so much.
And the Khalsa identity. Now, as you see us today, we're wearing a bana. But can anyone tell me any ideas? Why do we wear a bana? Why did Guruji give us a bana? Any ideas? No? It's our uniform. Perfect answer, Singh. It's our uniform. Obviously, Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, we're talking about being Sarbatta Pala, thinking above and beyond for well-being of others. So that meant when Guru Sahib Ji was approached by the Hindu Pandits, the Brahman Pandits, who said, Guruji, we need someone's head, someone political, someone as big and as brave as you to give your head. Will you do that for us? As Guru Gobind Singh Ji said, Guruji, no one's as big as you should give your head. And that was to be Sarbatta Pala. However, when Guruji received word that no one in that crowd that was gathered to see the beheading of their father, they saw that there were Sikhs, but you couldn't tell who were the Sikhs, why were they there, who were there. Sikhs, I've never heard of them. And they were like, okay, we need to change this. Again, this goes back to the oppression of the Mughals at the time. They were the biggest force that someone could go against. And Guruji chose that. So obviously most of us heard Vaisakhi 1699. The bana was given to us like a shera. Shastra was made mandatory for Amritdhari. And they would have to follow the path. Obviously you would have the Panj Baniya as well. And the Panj Pyare. And these Panj Pyare were much more than just, okay, these people are there, political people. Yeah, they're there. Obviously you see them in Nagar Kirtans, but they're not just there to say, okay, Panj Pyare, chalo bhi, theek hai, dekh ke chal jande hai. The Panj Pyare were the head. And when we mean the head, it means that during an example of a war, which was, I believe, Anandpur Sahib, they were asked to leave the Qila. And they were asked to leave the Qila, Guru Sahib themselves, by the Panj Pyare. And since they had took an oath to do whatever the Panj Pyare said, they had to do that. So the Panj Pyare were more than a political figure, but they were there to tell Guru Sahib, okay, this is what we're going to do. Even today, Panj Pyare are at the head, at the mukhi of the Sikh Panth. And this identity is given to us with a kirpan, with a Shastra on our side to help those. Again, going back to Sarbatta Pala, this identity is a symbol of strength and purity. Strength to show that we're ready, we're tiyar pratyar, which means ready at a moment's notice, to do whatever it takes to go against those who are trying to do stuff against those who don't deserve it. which that may be someone bullying someone in a corner. So they may be, as the police may know, someone issuing drugs. It could be as serious as that. But to be ready at a moment's notice. Pure, meaning dhokha nahi karna, not to cheat anyone, to treat everyone as equal. And everyone, as you can see in Langar, everyone sits down on the floor, whether you're rich. It could be the Guru themselves. They would sit in the Langar with the Sangat. Whether the Sangat may be a chor next to the person, whether it be one of the highest members of the Sikh society at the time, everyone is equal, which goes on to being strength and purity.
And then just to jump into that a little bit further, sorry. So with strength and purity, as Bhai Sahib said, he said Guru Sahib had Rajas sitting next to Chor, and we see this with Baba Bidijan, who is an incredible Sikh of Guru Har Gobind Sahib Maharaj, and they were a person who was a thief. They were stealing. That's what they loved to do. They were really, really good at taking things. They'd walk in here, they'd walk kind of back, where's my wallet, where's my key? And you'd be confused, and everything would be gone. You'd have your medals and everything that you got there, and you'd walk out, and you'd black shirt, and have and this is what they were good at. And Guru Sahib took that ability, they took that power, and they turned it into something incredible. Just as I was talking about that Guru Sahib that had the army, Guru Sahib had 2 horses that were given. And this got given to them, and they had these incredible, beautiful horses. They were so strong. Imagine outside, I saw some of your very, very fancy cars. Right? Imagine you got 2 nice, I don't know, Lamborghinis, whatever. You know what cars and I do. But you got gifted 2 incredible horses. The Mughals at the time, I think it was, stole these horses. And they kept them. And then there was an opportunity there for Baba Bidijan to be more than just a criminal, to be more than just someone who should be locked up and thrown away. They were rehabilitated, they were helped, they were turned into someone incredible. And they went and they used all their tricks and all their magic and all their spiritual powers and all that, you could say. Or you could say they used their brain, they used that criminal intellect in a good way. They went in, they dressed up a certain way, they got those horses and went out and said, bye bye, thank you very much, and walked off. And they took Guru Sahib's horses back with them. And those horses did an amazing amount of seva, amazing amount of help, and helped so many people. Okay. And the same thing, that's where that purity comes from. The purity comes from Guru Sahib. When we go to them and we ask them, how do you be pure? When we ask them, how do you help us? When we ask them, please take care of us.
Yep. So, Shastra in a modern society. So, obviously, one of the points is the duty to protect and serve. Obviously, that aligns with the Sikh police, what they do, what you lot do, everything. And I want to ask, Shastra in modern day society, how does it feel to you being police and you see people with Shastra? What does it mean to you? Are there any personal experiences that you can share that you've seen with people with Shastra and you've had to share an experience that may be helpful towards others?
I'll be sure.
I think with regards to weapons,
Yeah.
knives, blade articles, we see a lot of knife crime, and officers are often concerned, and they can't distinguish what is a shastra, what is Qur'an, and what is a straightforward offensive weapon. So I think there's an education piece there that we probably need some support from your good self. And I think perhaps some of the terminology that you're using isn't familiar to non-Sikhs,
Yeah.
and perhaps there's a piece of work that you could help us perhaps and educate. We say Shastra, to the untrained mind, so what the hell's that? But if we say it's a particular type of, however you want to describe it, that might be useful for us.
I see.
100%.
But do you want to add anything?
Yeah, these shastras are given to us for the protection of all the human beings,
Yep.
as we all know. But we should be, I would say, very categorical. We should be, I would say, very thankful to the British, very thankful who have allowed us to carry our Qur'an. Whereas the Indian government does not allow Qur'an on our body. So we need to be very thankful. So we need to be very thankful to the British government. We recognize what Qur'an is. Because I've had many experiences like this. I worked for defense industry all my life. I worked for defense industry all my life. And they everywhere in MOD, that which Amandeep knows, is allowed, because it's allowed. Blessing with honor, blessing with honor on our body. So Guru Sahib gave this. You need to portray this kind of image. You need to tell the young kind of image and tell the community, tell the youngsters what the Qur'an is for, and what the Qur'an is for, and what the Qur'an is for, the Qawmiya is for, you need to educate these things to educate the community.
Yeah.
So not all I've been here 55 years, I'm retired. I've been here 55 years. What I'm saying is, we still have a lot of problems. We still have a lot of people don't understand sick pay. People don't understand and sick pay. We need to educate. There's lot of we need to educate. There's lectures need to be done on this. Lectures need to be done. You know, and the basic of sick pay. You know, and done a fair amount. You know, a lot of done a fair amount. So in this, you know, half an hour or something, it's very difficult. Half an hour or something, it's very difficult. Aspect of sick pay. So we need to conduct more. We need to events like this so that people understand what is sick pay.
And that's why we believe in it.
Sorry, one more question. So one of the things, and I think we've got senior officers here as well, we've got Sam well represented, Wolverhampton, Birmingham as well. One of the things that we find is just this idea of people having the Shasta with them. We get the 999 calling, and we get someone saying there's a person with a knife or a blade rasp or something, and it's the response that we give. If we are on duty, we are able to help manage that because we understand, but it's that piece that we need of that jigsaw to help educate and possibly spread within our youth as well to be responsible with what gift they've been given, because it's an absolute honour to have, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I think I wouldn't be too far off saying and speaking on behalf of that little piece that we need to do as well together as a community is to raise that awareness that it isn't a bad thing, but we are reasonable with it, and it's not something, it's not a toy is the main thing, and we need to differentiate between pandemic of knife crime and what is our faith.
Yeah, 100%. Because we're both from Wolverhampton, and as many of you know, knife crime is terrible that currently. It's really bad. In my area, sorry, this is one little point. Even in my area alone, there's been knife crime in the school that I used to go to, the school that he goes to. There was knife crime in a Sikh school. It wasn't in the school, but it was a student from that school. We know these people. We've met these people. We've shaken hands with these people. We've eaten langar with these people. Okay. And it's really important that we talk about this because it's an issue that has started to creep into our community where people that maybe they're not on radar yet, not yet, it could still get into that community as well. But that's the important thing with what these guys have been doing for so many years. They get 40, 50, 60 kids together to sit down, be quiet. How do you get 65 to 12-year-olds to sit down and be quiet? I can't do it. I try and talk to kids for like 10 minutes, they start talking, he's getting up, when we're going to go to the toilet. To get that many students to come together, to just sit down, to be quiet, to learn about what is a Shasta, why do you get to carry this, why do you deserve it, what have you got to do to earn it, what is that price that you paid for it? All of these different things are so important. And what we see is that all of the people that we've been able to engage with, all of the people that we've been able to reach out to, it takes, yes, force from the parents sometimes, but when the children actually see what's going on, they love it. They love to get engaged with it. And when you get these young children who are 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, and you instill those values and you show them how beautiful Sikhi is and how beautiful Shasta can be, then they have so much respect for it, they'll never ever do anything disrespectful. They'll never ever disrespect me. I'm going to go on Amazon, use my mom's card, buy this, do that, do this. They won't be doing anything behind the back. Because they'll be able to express Bihar, they'll be able to express love and express a want for Shasta in a positive, healthy and social way, where then they can affect other people. I've had people come up to me and talk to me. I only took Amrit like last week or the week before. I've still had people come up to me like, what's that? I was on holiday last week, trying to get through the airport security. I got asked about everything. I got asked about this. On the way there, on the way back. On the way back, I was in Rhodes, and the guy pulled me to a side. I thought it was going to be some extra checks, this, that, whole hassle. He was like, I'm so fascinated by you guys. I want to learn about you. Why do you have Shasta? Why do you have this? Why do you have that? It's just about taking every single of these little opportunities that we get to talk about it, to say, this is what our Shasta are, this is what we can do with them, this is how it's going to change the world, and how it is changing the world right now. Let's carry on with that last little bit then. Honey?
Yeah, just quick one. I think what everyone is saying, we endorse that when it comes to knife crime and all of that. But that's the British context. Sikhs are not only in Britain. I go to US almost every month, where bearing arms is a constitutional thing, where the constitution says you can bear arms, and that's given by the Guru Sahib for self-defense. I think more about the Shastra, it's now more symbolic. So whosoever manufacture these shastras also need to manufacture, design in such a way that people doesn't get scared. Another thing is all of us need to work towards the community to educate them that it is symbol of honor, it is symbol of protection, and not of any offense. That's what all of us need. But bearing arms or shastra is not an easy right which people have in the West. There was a long struggle behind it, and we never give up on that.
And the symbol of that struggle is two things. You can see the shastra here. Can you see the shastra on my belt there? And you can see how beautiful they are. You can see the work that's been put into it. Now, not everyone can appreciate that. Someone might just think, it's a knife, let me see it. But that's our job to go and educate people. And as you said, the people who make these should educate. A lot of these, this one's not, but are made by the Pixar, or made by the Burdadal, or made by these different organizations that we may or may not have heard of. And they'll have a stamp there. And when you go and you purchase from there, they'll tell you, they'll ask you questions. They're not just going to give you this for free. When I went to get this, I said, who are you? Why do you deserve to get this? What have you done? They didn't just let me walk in like, there you go, buy this, take that. No, you have to ask questions. You have to show your passport, you have to show your licenses, and you have to get evidence for these things. And
Just want to add something. Basically, those of you in policing circles know about the Violence Reduction Partnership. So I'm part of the Faith Alliance there. And we speak to a lot of the police forces across the UK. And one of the main priorities of the VIP was around knife crime when they first came in. And we regularly get questions even from our city police officers around the country about, well, what is a shastra? What's a kapan? Right? We regularly see incidents occur. I mean, there's a process that's required where we have to make sure from policing sides that the education is provided, but at the same time from within the community, because the communities, Sikh don't know themselves, right? Those of us Sikh who are Amritari, for example, right, and we've gone through some of the education, we live with their head in the Maryada, right, which is the way of living for those of you non-Punjabi speakers, Gurmukhi speakers. It's important, right, that we share this within our communities as well, and share it with the other faith communities, so that it breaks down some of the barriers and the understanding is actually there. Because, like I said, every week we get incidents from any part of the country that's brought to us, and we have to step in and try and provide some kind of education or resolution to matters.
100%. And that's why we'll do our closing statement now and just finish up. So,
I agree with that gentleman speaking over there about the kirpan and all this. I'm Amritari whole life. But I still say that, you know, what this gentleman said, now we need to, because Guru Sahib gave these 5 Ks to us, we need to carry them. Or, you know, however we do, we need to carry them. But it is now, it is a symbol of Guru Sahib given to us as an identity that we are Guru Sikh, right? But now the world has moved on, right? In those times, Guru Hargobind Sahib, Guru Gobind Singh Sahib, those times were, you know, the shastras were very important. Now the shastras are still very important for us because they are part of our body, the Gurus have given us. But we need to move it forward, whereas Kirpan is there, but there is, the weaponry has developed tremendously, right? Because I work on nuclear weapons. So what I'm saying is, where there is a Kirpan, it's very important to carry it, but you know, there is a lot more now as the world has moved on, there is a lot more weaponry.
100%. And we would definitely agree.
Which
Sorry,
we need
we've got
to,
to stick about time. I do
which we need to consider.
I think you've got a question at the back.
So, 100%. We're happy to answer any questions and stuff afterwards. Do apologise.
Yeah, should we?
But just to finish up our last little bit. So just to finish up the last little bit. This is why we believe in grassroots organisations. And we believe that everyone should be doing it. We don't think everyone should be P6. We've all got to do it. Everyone's got to be with this group. Everyone's got to be that group. Everyone's just got to do their best. If one person comes up to me and asks me, why have you got this? And I tell them, well, to earn this, you've got to wake up at 3 a.m. every single day, no days off. Forever.
Sorry, Barge, can I ask one really quick question? I've come late, I apologise.
Yeah.
Under the Criminal Justice Act 1988, Section 139, Sikhs are allowed to wear an article with blade for religious reasons. Does that cover, I know that covers Kripan, does that cover a shastra?
So shastra means weapon. So a Kripan is a type of shastra.
So I guess an article with blade would cover a shastra?
Would, yes. Because shastra are blade weapons. You've got different names. So you've got shastra, you've got astra, you've got all these different names. If you want to find out more about that, if you go on to Sikhi to the Max or any website where you can look at Gurbani, if you look at Shastra Naam Mala, it is a Bani, and it tells you the list of all the different names of Shastra and what they're called and what we call them.
Yes.
And to finish off, that's why we believe in grassroots organisations, grassroots conversations like that, where someone can ask a question and not feel scared, where a child can come to it. Because sometimes people feel like worried if they're a grown person. Like I had people at work, I worked in a professional environment, I was around accountants, you go around different places and they look at you and be like, this is different, I'm really confused, I'm kind of step back, D&I committee, come in, please, I don't want to deal with this, HR, I don't know, you know. So you've got to be able to take that opportunity, like, hi, I know I'm different, ask me questions. So it takes every single person in here, whether or not, even if you haven't got a shastra on you, if you see someone who's confused, just talk to them about it, have a conversation about it. All it takes is a few conversations and then massive changes happen, and massive things can happen. So all it is go through, talk to people, whether it be setting up a camp or whether it be talking to your co-worker. Just do as much as you can to make people aware of why this is a symbol that if a child has this in their hand or a poti in their hand, they're not going to take up a knife, they're not going to do crime with it, and they're going to spread love, pyar, and to help everyone possible. And with that being said,
Is a symbol right word to use?
well, that will depend on who you talk to.
I mean, because, terminology is symbol,
100%. I think
symbol is the right word to use.
the shastra and everything that we have from Sikhi is first of all practical, 100%. That's why we got given it. We wouldn't have got given it if it wasn't practical. But it also has a symbolic side. Just as you said, medium being. There's a temporal, worldly side, and there's a spiritual side. And you can't have one without the other. If you just focus on this as a piece of loha, then you're doing it not justice. And if you're just having it as something that you're going to just sit down and do nothing with, you're not doing it justice. You've got to have both sides. Okay? So with that being said,
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Cheers, man, thank you. Firstly, I'm quite blown away at just their age. They know so much. I don't know anything, to be honest with you, compared to them. The reason we put paper and pens on the tables is can you write down your questions, because there will be a Q&A panel at the end, a short one. It's easier that way, that we can keep to the time and then we can ask the questions at the end. But I appreciate everyone taking part and I know you've got a lot of questions. We're just going to take a short... ...the freedom birth anniversary of Maharaja Jassa Singh Ghallughara and the sacrifices of Sikhs during the 18th century Punjab. He's a chartered civil engineer by profession and an Amritdhari Sikh who has lived over 50 years in the UK. A strong advocate for Sikh unity and the principle of Saint Soldier. So I'd just like to invite Ranjit Singh Seela up.
He's got one. Just give it.
I'm a very private person. Thank you, Jaspal. Thank you, everyone, for giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts with you. But before I share my thoughts with you, I've been so impressed by the two previous speakers, or three previous speakers. So, as someone of a slightly older generation, it's always a concern of whether the next generation is looking after and will be advocates of Sikhi. And hearing Baljit Singh and meeting him face to face for the first time, I think, we've seen all your videos, but seeing face to face, there's a different energy. And the Najwans from the P6 Academy. So in traditional Sikhi style, can we just say well done to them in our traditional style? Bole Sonihal. and may Maharaji Akal Purkh bless you with his continued service, so the Lari that we are part of, the history that we've come from, we can take it forward and make it flourish. I'm going to talk about surviving against the odds, because the odds that we've come up against since the time of Guru Har Gobind Ji have been huge and immense. And a little bit about myself, without saying too much, there's just normal things that Sikhs do. I'm just a normal Sikh. I was born in India, but I grew up in Derby, where I've spent most of my life. As a youngster, going to the Gurdwara, or occasionally being having to be dragged by the parents to go to Gurdwara. And then with time, having your own luggan, having your own desire to go to the Gurdwara and learn. Because that's what a Sikh is. We're all born Sikh. We want to learn. There's nothing special there. I've had a job. May not look it. I'm not that Sikh. But it's the things we've heard about. It's the way you live your life which makes you the Sikh. Not just what you look like, but what you sound like. Okay. And the Sikhs come in various guises. There's different guises there. We're very traditional, kirpan in your hands, wearing the bana. Yes, it's a kesti, it's an orange, it's blue colours. But the photo on the right is also Sikhs. And that was a Ramriya Council UK, an organisation covering 20-30 Gurdwara in the UK. And they were in Canada barely a month ago, spreading the message, which I'm going to hopefully share in the next few minutes with you. And there's a question I want to ask you. When you see any of those pictures, do you feel safe? Do you feel safe with a Sikh near you? Because that narrative is getting lost. So quick show of hands. So do you feel safe when you see a Sikh near you? That's a lot of hands go up. Is there anyone who doesn't feel safe? Who has perhaps had a life before when they saw a Sikh, a kirpan, and didn't feel safe? I'm so deeply humbled by that. The narrative is changing. 70, 60, 70, 80 years ago, as the British Raj came to an end, Sikhs came to this country, emigrated in. They're also accompanied by the commanders, the generals, the soldiers of the British Raj, the British Army. And they knew about Sikhs and our philosophy. However, 1, 2, 3 generations later, what we stand for has slowly got lost. A lot of people don't know what we stand for. When they see a man with a kirpan, the first thing they think of is knife crime. So that's a narrative we have got to change. It's a narrative we'll have to continuously change because times change. And what is that Sant Spy we talked about? What is that inner Sikh? What is that feeling we have, which doesn't always get shown in our clothes, the way we look, but in the way we act? And it's the P6 Academy talked about it, the Sant Spahi, that ability to bring the spiritual side along with that need to protect and serve, the right to bear arms. The Sant, the spiritual person, the Spahi, the soldier, that saint, soldier, warrior. And in very much, Sikhs are natural law enforcers because it says it there, to protect and serve, seva, protection. These are our fundamental, not rights, but duties, responsibilities. And within that is a natural sense of justice, a sense of natural justice. A sense of, if it's wrong, regardless of who's doing it. If it's my brother committing a crime, that relationship comes second. The crime comes first, it must be punished. And those are the ideals, the principles which Sikhi has been brought up on and is flourishing in the 300-400 years since we took up arms. So let's just look at the recap the time history. So I wish I had a clicker here with a little pointer, but Baljit Singh talked about the Shahidi of Guru Arjan Dev Ji, which was in 1604. So the Guru's timeline, very basically, they're 1469 550 odd years ago, was Guru Nanak Dev Ji, Guru Nanak Bashai. The martyrdom of Guru Arjan Dev Ji, 1606. So, 150 years later. The martyrdom of Guru Tegh Bahadur, we talked about that. Not dying for your faith, but dying for the faith of others. Dying for the right for others to practice their faith. I mean, who would do that in today's? Could you see for argument's sake, the Pope giving his life for another faith? It's hard to imagine that, but that's what Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji did. He gave himself, his head, to protect all faiths, not just the Hindu faith, all faiths. The right to have your own faith and practice it. 1675. 1699, we talked about Guru Har Gobind Ji, Guru Har Gobind Ji's grandson, Guru Gobind Singh Ji. And if you do your historic lines, it's a bit messy to see who was whose father and son, etc. But the Guru Gaddi, the duty to the Guru, passed through the right person. Not just, he's my son, he'll be the next Guru. There's far more to it. There were tests, very much like Guru Arjan Dev Ji testing his son, his 11-year-old son. Did he have the anak, did he have the inner spirit to be the Guru, to make those sacrifices, to take up arms? The period I'm going to talk about is post-Guru Gobind Singh Ji, the foundation of the Khalsa. 1708 to 1801 is the darkest period in Sikh history. It's when the Sikh missiles tried to provide that protection for Punjab. And we're talking of Punjab not as we see it on the map now. We're talking of a Punjab that stretched from Delhi in the east all the way to Kabul in the west, in Afghanistan. That was the landmass we're talking about, the Sikhs were dominating and looking after. But that history starts to overlap with the British history, when the Sikh Empire, post-1839, after Maharaja Ranjit Singh disappears. I'm not a historian. This is what I've learned and picked up just by being a Sikh and learning. The Sikh Empire flourishes for nearly 40 years. There's peace in the Punjab. Post that period, then you have the British Raj through to 1947. And then the post-47, the struggle for a homeland, a struggle for a home, you might call it. The promises that were made but then were not kept. There are two incidents which you may have heard of or may not have heard of, and they were quite recent, they're only 100 years ago. The Jallianwala Bagh, the massacre in Amritsar by British forces against the population they were meant to protect at the time. Some of these truths are unwelcome or difficult, but this is our shared history. The more we talk about it, the more we are aware, and more we can make tomorrow better and avoid the mistakes of the past. The Sakha Nankana Sahib, where a train was run over protesting Sikhs. I'm not a historian, but these incidents have left an indelible mark in my character, my personality, and who I am. But those incidents were quite small compared to three we're going to talk about. We talked about the Sikh missile period, that 18th century. And this is a time that overlaps with what was happening over in the West. So if you know your historic timeline, the Americans were having a little bit of a civil war and a bit of a fight over there. The Europeans were all fighting. There were empire wars. There was also a period of enlightenment where the darkness had the candle shining in it. Guru Nanak Dev Ji had started it a few years earlier, but in that period the candle was still burning despite the darkness which was happening across the planet at the time. And the three incidents I want to talk about, two that happened in that missile period. So if I can just elaborate a little bit, the missile period was a confederacy of 12, 13, people say different numbers, but generally it's accepted as 12 missiles, 12 regiments, 12 confederacies. where they managed different geographical areas of the Punjab. And twice a year, in the name of unity, came together, Amritsar generally came together as the leaders of those missiles, as the leaders of those forces, came together and said, right, what's our mission for the next 6 months? And went away and then did it and came back and reported on it. They didn't have mobile phones, sadly, then, but they had mobile communication. They had people on horseback, no different to what was happening in the history to Britain, to Europe, where communication was still there. It's just a bit slower. And the other one, 1984, which is more contemporary, more recent, and very relevant. These three incidents are generally now accepted as the three Ghalugharas. Ghallughara is a genocidal attack, a genocide against anyone. And for us as Sikhs, it was a time when the people, the rulers of the time, not your neighbours, although they're part of it, it was the rulers of the time. The state of the time was oppressing people, was oppressing its subjects. And the Sikhs were that sword that arose in the 17th century and the 18th century. We put that sword to use. Okay, so three Ghallughara, the three genocides. Just take that second one off. Yeah, just one time, thanks. Yeah, it's wonderful if you have a clicker, you can kind of master the slides. Okay. So they're very high level stuff. And I'll bring a context and put a wrap around at the end. But the 1746, so this is about 40 years after Guru Gobind Singh Ji. Guru Gobind Singh Ji went south into Maharashtra, and Hajur Sahib, which is one of the takhts, that's where he passed on, the Gurgaddi to Guru Granth Sahib Ji. But he also sent Banda Singh Bahadur, his Sikh. He said, go back to Punjab and gather my Sikhs. The lessons we have taught you, the lessons we have had, now go and put them into action. And in 1708, 1709, Banda Singh Bahadur went back to the Punjab, and meted out, shall we, just in a very broad terms, revenge, shall we say, or correction. And there's a better word which I'll use later. But he went back and he corrected the wrongs. He himself was martyred in 1716. So about 30 years before this. So you can see a period post the Guru's time that the Guru Granth Sahib Ji is accepted Guru. The Gurbani is being oppressed by the rulers of the time. Sikhs are being oppressed. The Punjabi is being invaded continuously. So let's have a look at the power politics at the time. So prior to this time, 300-400 years, the Mughals had been ruling Punjab, in northern India. They'd got quite deep into southern India, but the northern India, where Punjab is, were all ruled by Mughals. These are difficult conversations, because I'm sure there are Muslim people sitting in the room today. So, read this as a history that we all share, the history that we need to watch for the future. And what are the signs of that thing happening today? Because it's always been there and always will be. But the Mughals had a policy to oppress all other religions, of which Hinduism was the main one at the time, and to support and propagate the Islamic faith. And that was done through positive means, but also through the sword. And in 1746, they meted out around the area of Lahore. This is called the Chota Ghallughara. Only 7,000 people died or were killed. And a further 3,000 were captured and taken and beheaded in public to teach the people, to teach the Sikhs who were the uprising force, mess with us and we'll do this to you. That's a lot of people, 7,000. Many of us will remember the Twin Towers and the number of people that passed or died in that one incident, instantly. This 7,000 is twice that number of people who perished in that incident. So you can just imagine the scale of the atrocities being meted out by the rulers of the time. These are difficult conversations because you're bringing faith, you're bringing rule, you're bringing the need by the state to protect, but also to mete out justice in its way. And when good men stop standing up, evil takes over. And that's what was happening for the 50, 100 years prior to that. It's little known, but Guru Nanak Dev Ji also was jailed. Do your research on that. So from the beginning, Sikhs have always had a duty and responsibility to stand up and fight the oppressor. Okay. 1762, we now see an invasion from the other side. So seeing the Mughal Empire in India weaken, the Afghan forces from Kabul, Afghanistan side, started invading Punjab. And they had many invasions. And the one that's talked about, and we'll talk about today, is the 1762 Afghan invasion. If you know your geography, Punjab is at the crossroads between Delhi, Lahore, and beyond Lahore, past the mountains, is Afghanistan, Iran, Iraq, and the West. The West. So the Punjab is a natural crossroads for trade or for anyone coming to invade India. So it's inevitable that Punjab will be a battleground, will be a place where blood is shed. And in 1762, following the Sikh missiles, the Sikh confederacy at the time, who used to live on horseback, literally. The warriors of the time were like a guerrilla force. They would come out, attack the invading Afghans, and then go and hide in the forests. Because they didn't have the numbers against the numbers of the Afghan forces. And getting so wound up by this, the Afghans in 1762, and the numbers vary between 10,000 and 50,000 Sikhs, Punjabis, people in that area were killed. The average number of people are saying is around 30,000, which is about 30% of the Sikh population, known Sikh population of the time. So can you imagine you're living safely in your city where we live, and an invading force kills 1 in 3 out of your family. Most families are 4, 5, 6 people. 2 people. Who are those 2 people you can imagine the emotions that would put inside you of them being killed in front of your eyes? That's a huge number to take in. We're talking, 30,000 is now 10 times the 7/11 or the 9/11 attacks. 10 times the amount of people that died in the Twin Towers. Just to put it into some sort of scale with a contemporary vibe on it. And this is the Afghans and the Mughals fighting, trying to take over the Punjab, and the Punjabis, the Sikhs, being affected by that. Okay. So although these events happened 200, 300 years ago, they very much shape the Sikh psyche. This is part of our history. I didn't know about this until maybe 10, 15 years ago. And, if you would guess my age, you'd probably get it wrong. I'm a lot older than I look. But we don't know about this period of time. I'm not a historian. There are people far more clever than me, like there's a Gurinder Singh Maan in Leicester, who recently put on a display about this period of our history, the 18th century, and the kind of things we had to go through. Which brings me on to 1984 again. This is the planned attack on Harmandir Sahib. It's all out in the open now as to what happened. Pretty much we know 90% of what happened. Who were the people behind it? And again, it's a state-sponsored genocide. It's a state-sponsored, the state saying, we don't like those people, let's get them out of the way. Whether we like to hear that or not, that's the harsh reality. And when a state goes rogue, then the people have to stand up. There are disputed numbers on how many people were killed, but it can vary between 3,000 or 4,000, 5,000 in Delhi, but then across the whole of India, tens of thousands of people were killed. 50,000 were people displaced from their homes. There are many people in this room who will have stories. My Dayaji, my father's elder brother, was living in Delhi at the time. And amongst all this atrocity, there were also signs of humanity. So the area in Delhi that he lived, he'd only recently moved there, retired from the railway. It was his Hindu brother next door who saved him. He said to him and his young family, or young grandkids, come and hide in my house. And by hiding for those few days, their lives were saved. But many were not. Many, many people died. So in historical terms, this is our shared history. It's before the British Raj. There are many people who know about the British Raj and the great things it did. And we've also seen some of the not so great things that happened at the same time. And then the post-1947, 1984, what happened? And stories of this, wounds are still fresh in our lives at the moment. And these 3 points, these 3 incidents shape our, and I'll say, I want to be very careful how you see this. Is it revenge we seek, or is it something else? Okay. And I'll come to that answer in a minute. So why did all this happen? I mentioned it's religious fervour by the rulers, my way or the highway. If you don't do as I say, well, you'll be 6 foot under. Or it's also persecution of faith. What I didn't know and I discovered was in the 18th century, there was taxes. If you wanted to be a Hindu and go to Hardwar, to Benares, you had to pay tax to go on that journey. A tax on faith, a tax on freedom. I mean, that can't be fundamentally right. I don't know much about taxation and stuff, but accountants in the room, economists will know. But that just feels fundamentally wrong. Financial taxes on travel. And everyone else was treated as second-rate citizens. If you are living in a country for generations and you are then brought to be thinking that you're a second-rate citizen, how would you feel? When the Sikhi way is all people are born equal. We recognize no one as being higher or lower than anyone else. The key fundamental principles of Sikhi. Oops. Yep. Go back. Yeah. Is that one too many? So, to me, this is a picture that depicts all the atrocities of the 18th century and beyond. Even the 1984 riots, genocide that happened in India. In the Sikh Ardas, the Sikh prayer, we have one paragraph. We say we remember all those Singhs and Singhaniya who sacrificed their lives, who were martyrs, who didn't just die but actually went out and died, fighting against injustice. The mothers, whose children were cut up into pieces, made into garlands and put around their necks. There are mothers in this room. How would you feel about that? The fathers in this room, how would you feel about that? Happening in front of your eyes. These were the atrocities, and for me, since childhood, that picture depicts the place where my ancestors have come from. The atrocities that we've had to bear. And it was no different in 1746, 1762, or 1984. 1984, we've seen many films based on facts, where Sikhs were drenched in oil and burnt, where tyres were put around them and then lit. These atrocities have happened. They have happened. We can't go back and change that. What we can do is learn from it and make sure it doesn't happen again. To Sikhs and anyone else. Of faith or not of faith. I'm sorry I apologise if this evokes emotions, but you have to feel the strong emotions that this is what people do to people. And it's our duty as Sikhs, as I said at the beginning, we're all Sikhs in a way. You live those principles of Sant Spai, those principles of compassion. And perhaps we can stop some of this happening in the future. So what was the general response by the Sikhs to these atrocities in that 18th century and in 1984? And the first word I used earlier on was this thing about revenge. Well, it wasn't. Revenge is not the Sikh psyche. The word in Punjabi, and I had to take it off here because the Punjabi font didn't bring it, is sodhana. And the nearest English word I can get to is rectification. It's putting right the wrongs. And yes, that inevitably means killing the oppressor, the head of the oppressor, one who put their signature to the act. This is no different to every other community, every other country in the whole planet. It's only in the last few years where we've now got far more people in prison than perhaps should be. It's a political statement, but that's another matter. But in the past, there were very few prisoners because you've done an atrocity, it was the death penalty. And that was a generally accepted thing across many parts of the world. And for Sikhs, 1746, the various other atrocities and invasions that happened. One incident is when the invaders are sat in Amritsar, so we've seen the Golden Temple picture. When they're sat in there and have turned it into a place for courtesans, there's dancing going on, there's drinking going on, Sikhs said, no, you're desecrating a place of worship. I remember Sikhs had built the mosque earlier, so it wasn't our place of worship, it was a place of worship. And they went in there, and the name is Masarangar. His head was chopped off. They took rectification. That's the word I'd like to use. It's putting right the wrongs that were happening. As sad as it might sound, that's what happened in 1984. Might not be the right context, but with this peace we have now, it's only been around 50, 60, 70, 80 years, maybe 100 years. Prior to that, this was the kind of things, or the revenge, shall we say, or the rectifications that were carried out across the whole planet. The struggle for justice, as it was then, carries on now. We struggle, we fight that fight to make sure justice is brought home. And in that justice is principles above power. And in our ardas and our prayer we say, Mananiva mat uchi. So let my thinking be lower than the principles upon which my thinking is based. So it's the principles outweigh my thinking of the time. So what is the principle I'm trying to establish or keep going as the right principle? And also, when you're out there, to stop you getting into a revengeful mode, to stop you getting into negative thinking, is this Chardi Kala mentality, Chardi Kala Roop. It doesn't mean everything's going to be fine. It's I'm going to be fine when I sort this problem out. I'm sorting this problem out because I want to make everything fine for other people. It's not I'm going to be happy, happy, happy. No, it's about expressing the emotions, as the Baljit Singh's shared. Getting those emotions out. Once the anger is out, you can think with a clear head and get back into Chardi Kala mentality so that you can then seek justice, fight the injustice. Okay. Not sure how much time I've got. I've got a mic for time. So I'm just going to finish on this last bit. So my colleagues mentioned the various things I've got involved in. One of them recently was in Derby, where we put a commemorative gate and statue up of that 300-year history post the Guru Gobind Singh Ji. So it's everything I've talked about, we've tried to encapsulate in these two monuments, memorials in Derby at the WMPSA Ghallughara. So on the left is a warrior. He's one of the Jathedars, one of the leaders of those missiles in that 18th century. It was actually his 300th birth anniversary last year and it's a Ramgarhia Sardar, Jassa Singh Ramgarhia. So that's an honour to him, but behind him, and you'll see on the marble plaques, the history of what he represented and what that historic period of 100 years represents, the things I've been talking about. So that was reminding our next generation, future generations, of what our history was. Next to it is a gate. Now, has anybody here visited York? Oh, not many people. Has anybody? Not many. Okay. Has anybody visited Warwick? A lot more people. If you go to these cities, you go through. Oh, in Warwick, there's a gate, an entrance where you enter the city historically in a safe way. That's here. 5, 7, 8, 900,000 years old history. It was the same in every other country and every other place. And in the Punjab, we have got gates, darwaje, doors, where when you enter through, you're in a safe place. If you go to Amritsar, in that Missal period, Amritsar, each road coming into Amritsar had a gate guarded by a different missile to make sure that the city was protected and served. And that's what we try to depict here. The entrance to the Gurdwara, it is a gate. It's called the Ramari Gate, because there's the historic link back to Amritsar. But the message on the right you see there is Sarbat da Pala. Sarbat, everyone. Pala, good. For the good of everyone, for the good of mankind. It's a clear depiction. We've deliberately left it as it is, not with the translation, because we wanted you to go and find out what it means. Ask the question, have the conversation. What does that mean? And unfolding behind that will be many, many, many layers of stories. Derby's not very far from here, so I invite everyone, perhaps the West Midlands can link up with the East Midlands and have a meeting there in the future. You're more than welcome. We've got some facilities there where we can host you. And perhaps the pictures do not do it justice. I've left only a couple of pictures here. I could have had lots of pictures. But with very many things, you've got to be there to experience it, to stand around it, to experience and feel those emotions. And I'll just part with one last thought. There is a thing among Sikhs, oh, why you got statues? We don't just do statue worship. You're absolutely right. Our head only bows to the Bani in the Guru Granth Sahib. And those Sikhs who live the Bani. Even amongst us here, there will be the hidden gems that the Gurbani is so deep in them that all you want to do, you see Guru Sahib in them. But we also have to have our head held up high. And that's what this statue should evoke. It should give you that the inner spirit of Sant Sipahi. That just as that warrior is there, particularly positioned to be leaving the Gurdwara to go and fight the fight. So seeing that should give you that inner awakening that makes your head lift up high, say, they did it for us, we can do it today. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.